Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to APAC North. Our second and last game is about to begin. T1 versus SANDBOX. Again, game 3 out of 4 that we have for you every Playday. Live again from beautiful Paris, France, which is known to be in the APAC region, as many people will know. Oh, that flew right over. Hello, I'm Austin, your host for the show. With me are Fresh and Fabian. We're going to have a chat about our two teams. Yeah, and of course you do. First up, SANDBOX, our, I guess, second-rated team in Korea, but honestly, that has been shifting quite a bit, hasn't it, Fresh?
It's been an indifferent stage for them, I think. I think when they've not played Skyscraper, they've looked pretty good. You know, they opened Playday 1 and 2, played Skyscraper, had real difficulties actually attacking that map, doing a lot of OSA play, taking a lot of risks. They got back on some of their home ground maps. We've seen a bit of Oregon coming out from them, and they've started winning again. Confidence is coming. We know once again they are still playing with their coach Nova. They're waiting for Good Boy to come in. But overall, I would say middle of the pack. They're not going to be too disappointed. Could be better, but could be a lot worse as well.
I think they've been playing quite well, and especially looking at they only are really 4 out of the 5 main players, and I think that weighs in quite heavily. I think it's early April that he gets to come and play.
April the 12th, I want to say.
Yeah,
yeah, which is pretty much the end
of the stage. Yeah,
the last day or just after it.
I mean, there isn't much to say from their last Playday, though, but I'll be honest. Like, they just literally ran them over like there was nothing on the server. It was like they were playing dry runs.
Yeah, it was like unopposed dry runs. It's like, you know, when you're doing a dry run, and a lot of teams, you know, viewers won't realize this, but teams, they do a dry run where all 5 players will go through the strategy, and usually the coach is on the other side to just talk them through it. And then after it's done, all 5 players just shoot the coach. He's dead. That's what their last game was like. It was that easy for them. So they're in a good run of form. They've got a lot of confidence.
I think they just did that to you, Jack, out of spite. But that's
no, we did it to everyone. But
T1 on the other side.
T1 is. I'm very happy with how they've been playing so far this stage. I think that their improvement has been quite big. I'll be honest. I actually have a clip, another one that we're going to show on the Telestrator? That's the word?
Yeah.
Telestrator. Teleprompter. Isn't that where the text
That's where the text
that's
comes
if it's in front of you.
Yeah.
So he's learning.
If I can get you here, we're going to swap this into that one, and we have the clip ready for you here. Just to explain what's going on here. This is T1 versus Fnatic Playday 3. They've just lost a basement defense against Fnatic, and it's the absolute last round. And what they've done here is their adaptation. This is something that I've watched T1 do, and I'm very happy with. What we're going to see here is they've picked into a Goyo. And the way that they place the Goyo traps is you can see one here, a little bit more aggressive into Laundry. And that one is going to blow up in just a second. There you see, we get it hit there. They're a bit unlucky. This one, Goyo trap that's here, gets blown up by a grenade from Fnatic. Had they been in order, the timings would have been perfect, and you could have basically wasted 40 seconds out of the 60 remaining, which means his round's basically over. We're going to have another one here in Freezer Hallway that's going to blow up and waste another 20 seconds. With these flames, we have denied entirety of Laundry push, we have entire Freezer Hallway push, and we're basically telling Fnatic, there's no way you guys are welcome. The 4th one is somewhere here on the backside, and it's going to line the end, but it doesn't really matter. Looking at 30 seconds left, Freezer is still flamed off, and then it's just basically picking Fnatic apart. And that's where it ends up. Had the Goyo traps been activated manually by T1, the round would have been even more one-sided. But the adaptation that they show with these Goyo traps is really impressive, honestly. And it's the sort of things that win you rounds, but those rounds you win due to adaptation, that's the stuff that wins you tournaments.
It's the thing that I was looking for from T1 coming out of Stage 3 last year was to show a little bit more maturity, to understand time and the way that it can affect your defenses. Because T1 was seeing how Reject are seeing this stage, where they constantly just look for gunfights. They're showing that little bit more experience, that little bit more maturity, and crucially, that little bit more confidence, and it's getting them results.
The small things that you can change, it's first of all, everyone knows how to gunfight, but then it comes to those adaptation and team play. And when all of those sit together, that's when you're looking at the team going upwards, and T1 is one of those teams.
Oh, well. Our map then for the series. What does it look like? Again, 9-map pool, 8 are out, 1 is left for a best-of-1 series that we play globally here. And first 2 are in. Border, Oregon. Fresh, would you like to take us through it?
SANDBOX have not been liking Border. Villa is a map they don't like as well. Neither is Bank, so I'm not surprised. I did say, oh my God, we're going to go to Skyscraper. I did say they've been playing well if they don't go to Skyscraper, and they've
SANDBOX on Skyscraper.
They've offered up Theme Park or Skyscraper. and they've ended up on Skyscraper.
Right.
Starting off on the defense, I will say I would expect a clash ban against them. You know, SANDBOX were the first team to show us on the office side, using the clash outside on that office balcony with the ADSs, with the, what's it called, the barbed wire. I forgot what barbed wire was called there. So I'd expect to see a clash ban come out against them because that strat was particularly impressive. When SANDBOX got onto the attack, however, they were getting very hung up around that drum area in the middle of the map on the top floor. So I hope that they've been away for the last week, fixed those mistakes, and they're a little bit more decisive in their attacks.
I actually checked their schedule, and they've been quite busy working. Maybe not so much on actually working on the stress, but they've been busy playing the last week. They've had actually only one day off and had Korean League or Korean Open every single day other than that. So they've actually been quite busy. I don't think that they've changed that much yet, but maybe mentally, if you go through it after the game and you talk about it, you can change a few things.
What can we do? Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we're going to see something better than that, what we saw last.
They really struggled I think it was the very first time that they played it. They really struggled with the utility game. They weren't bringing burn in terms of to burn out ADSs, to burn out WAMI magnets. And therefore, they weren't able to clear power positions with shields behind them. And it took them way too long to adapt to that. So I think when they eventually do get onto the attack, that's one thing that they need to be wary of, is teams will have planned to play a lot of Jaeger, to play a lot of WAMI against them.
I mean, that clash ban. What does it say again?
Hopefully some Flores. That can solve a lot of those problems.
I mean, that clash ban that you talked about, even in day 2, when SANDBOX went up against CAG, already spotted, already taken away. So,
yeah, they actually struggled that day. I think they only got like 3 or 4 rounds. Two. There we go.
7-2 for CAG in that one. But there's been over a week in between games to kind of go back to the drawing board, seeing what could be fixed since last week. Final thoughts on this? Lobby's ready.
I'm super excited for this game. Honestly, if this is my game of the day.
Thanks.
Can't top that. Yeah,
Thank you, Jack.
I'm just. What I will say is for T1 from their banning
Just a final thought. Come on, don't
banning
give me...
preferences this stage. Skyscraper theme park, the last 2 maps it was available to go to, a T1's 8th and 9th preference. So everything's set up for a SANDBOX win.
Thank you very much, Fresh. Thank you, Fabian. Let's toss it to our casters. It's T1 SANDBOX. We've got Ace and Des takes through it. Enjoy.
Oh, it's Skyscraper Tim. Everything's set up for a SANDBOX win when I have picked T1 in the predictions. That's always promising to hear.
I think we're the only 2 that have picked T1. I've got some faith because I think if you look back... No, absolutely not. If you look back at how SANDBOX have played this map, they spoke about it a bit on the desk, but SANDBOX have really relied on mute-heavy roams. They'll have like MV Taylor out there, they'll have some support out on the roam as well, but it will always rely on a mute to help them block away drone-based play. If T1 can just get aggressive, as we've seen them start to do last week, where 4 players are pushing in ridiculously aggressive, you know, Crazy Boy's off support now, he's playing things like the Twitch, he's getting involved in gunfights and getting results, Arakazi's there, Mephi's up in the mix as well. They just look dangerous, I think. And I said at the time, when SANDBOX come up against a team that is capable enough of cutting out their rotates back to site, they will start losing games. And I honestly think T1 have got a game plan coming into Skyscraper today, given they've seen SANDBOX on it twice already.
Well, this is it. And SANDBOX haven't had the best time on Skyscraper either, you know, realistically.
They haven't been challenged there, I think.
No, that's it. They've not necessarily had an opportunity to really get running on this map. So we'll see. We'll see how it pans out. The bans are coming in. Thatcher will be the first, followed by an Ossa ban.
We knew it was going to come.
No surprise.
We said this last week. At some point, teams will start banning Ossa away against MV Taylor. He's a nightmare on this map with it. Will always push in through the Shrine balcony in towards top black and set it up looking down onto that T and karaoke site. Similar story for Clash. Static loves playing this out on the office balcony to deny away the office wall opening. These are 2 go-to trademark target bans coming in against SANDBOX, and I'm sure to some level they're delighted that they're being so respected and both of those operators are being taken away.
I don't know if delighted will be the right words, Des. I'm sure they'd be more delighted to have them available, but...
It's kind of like an ego thing. You're just like, oh, we're that good at it, they'll ban it away. Oh, that feels good.
T1 have done their homework. That much is clear. They are prepped, ready, and they are looking for their 2nd win in a row here. It could be if they can get SANDBOX taken down on Skyscraper. They're going to start out on the attack, and that is going to leave SANDBOX, of course, on the defence. Interestingly, we've got the Frost coming along. I'm always fascinated, always like to see we get more of those captures in the traps than you might think, so keep an eye on exactly where those are placed. It's going to be Karaoke and Tea Room to kick us off.
It is, yeah, and seeing the Frost coming along is interesting too, because I thought we'd see Mute at some point here. This was kind of the go-to setup you'd have for sandboxes. Bring a Mute, jam out much of the angles back towards site from on the east side, stick Envy Taylor out on the roam. It's where things would then look towards. But so, they have got the Mute, so I'm not on about. But I don't think he was playing the Frost previously when he was doing this sort of roam. But you will see them out here, given they have got that Mute on side, and sure enough, you can see them going down now. Anything they can do to waste time and then slowly get back towards site, that is SANDBOX's bread and butter. So for T1, like I mentioned, they need to be really good at getting the cuts onto SANDBOX and catching these players as they retreat back towards site. You've already seen it happen twice. You've got to have that figured out if you're going to beat them here.
In we go then. Action phase round 1. It's going to be Karaoke T and T1 start approaching the building on attack. Arakaze bringing the knock. Always one to watch. Of course, if you're newer to Siege, you may not know the ability of knock, but able to remove herself from the visuals of any cameras, drones, anything else that may have that sort of intel feedback. When running, it will show a little bit of glitching, a little bit of visual glitching, so it can be a little bit of a giveaway that she is there, but as long as she keeps moving nice and slowly, it is no major problem. She's also very, very quiet in terms of movement, and she's one of those operators that can really sneak up on you.
First roadblock being met by T1 there, trying to get the Geisha wall open nice and quick. That is normally a key room that you want control of when trying to push in towards this site, but with the Mute Jammer on there, it'll be removed away by getting inside a pantry, and it will be opened up. About 15 to 20 seconds or so wasted. Doesn't feel like a lot now, but we'll see how much more time they can waste. I'm curious to see if PGH now wants to move over towards office side and help his team on the push through, because given he is the only hard breacher, he is the only one capable of getting the office wall open and trying to force those roamers back.
SANDBOX largely stacked up in and around site at the minute, so they're going to be holding angles. They've got some nice long ones set up there, as we can see, all the way out towards that east side, where they're going to be waiting eagerly for that push to come in. We could have a bit of a coming together on the black stairs if that continues. Mephi just clearing the barbed wire and just paving the way for a push coming up the drum stairs as well, as and when the time dictates, and that east stairs is well in their control. But still a lot of work for T1 to be done here, working the rappels, working the angles, but there's still players yet to get themselves inside of the map, yet to really get themselves established. And I think, as you pointed out, the time that it took to open Geisha wall, just time in general, is potentially going to become a big factor here for T1.
I think Arakaze may be leaving this a bit late as well. He's trying to come up on the house side, but there's no one on this side of the map. They've already all pulled all the way back over. Nova going to find the entry, though, onto PGH. The Thermite, who is stepping his way inside of Geisha, has been shut out. And for SANDBOX, you saw the trigger. As soon as Geisha wall is open, they do all pull back towards the site side, but no one is challenging them around drum, which is why they're having to use the smoke to even get inside and start pushing in here. Finally, he strikes, though, finding Envy Taylor, who was waiting for the second assailant to come striking in through the wall. Not going to happen. Nova shutting him down, a 1-for-1, but it's Trade City coming in here. 11 getting one back, and a 3 versus 3 in the last 30 seconds.
Beautiful play from Arakaze there, just using the frag grenade in a way that we don't see too often to remove that barricade. Pushed in aggressively, got his kill. Mephi doing the same thing, managing to find a headshot onto Harper. 3 versus 2 now. T1, 15 seconds left to go. Time to think about getting yourself inside a site. 11 has the diffuser in hand, so they've got the ability to put this down, and that's exactly what they're going to try to do. The cover is surely in place. He's going to stick this Des. That's going to be diffuser planted. Shio managing to find a beautiful kill, but just a fraction of a second too late there. Still allowing 11 to get that case down active on the ground, and now it's all about the fight back. It's all about the retake. Shio taking a lot of damage there. He's down to a breath away from death here as he tries to push back into the site on the Jaeger static. Knows there's one lined up outside. Does he know the prone? Yes, what a kill. 1v1, and it leaves us now with Mephi versus Static. Mephi has the power position though, knows where the man is coming from, has the LMG, has all the advantage and the kill, and T1 have the first round.
Great first round coming out from T1 there, yeah. Feel like they were a little bit off in terms of them not dealing with the drum side, but their solution towards that was smoking off the single wall that leads between Geisha in towards drum. A quick pause coming out here, I imagine a small timeout while we get some things sorted out on maybe a technical side, but as said, I think cutting it off and ignoring much of that east side of the map was a great way to completely negate the roam that we normally see coming out of SANDBOX. The Mute Jammers were scattered out there, but they just ignored it and basically went route 1 towards site into a 3 versus 2 and get the plant down. Good statement in the first round from T1.
Yep, really setting themselves up. Nothing to get carried away yet, Des, but 1 round, we are good towards our predictions. And the thing is, I don't know if there's ever been a case where you and I are the only 2 to predict a team I don't remember that happening before, but...
Look, Tim, I think I'm on 25% prediction rate in both regions. I'm probably not the one to be siding with.
Well, no, the point is that if both of us are the only ones to get it right, imagine the insufferability that we can bring to that situation.
The collective insufferability backstage. Oh, pressure will be out the room.
Oh, it could be a wonderful thing. Come on, T1. So we're just going to get this technical pause sorted out. There's a little mic issue, I think, on the side of SANDBOX. So as soon as the players get loaded back in, we will be back with this one. But T1, as you say, Des, looking good so far in round one. Just dealing or not dealing with the roam perfectly well. Sometimes that can be the best way. You know, there's an opportunity sometimes to get in there, get them pinched, take them down. It gives you a man advantage. But sometimes it can be just as good to say, you know what, we're going to leave you out there in the cold. We're just going to let you go, and then we can play onto site with fewer to deal with.
Absolutely, yeah. It's good because they ignored the roam, but we'll see if SANDBOX kind of draw them into going for a war over the roam at some point. Keen to see if we repeat the same site, if SANDBOX want to return back there and play karaoke and tea once more, or instead we'll be stepping in towards playing inside of Exhibition. We'll maybe go down towards Barbecue, which has become quite a popular site that we've seen so far. It's going to be the Exhibition and Office. So this is where normally they play with a clash, and given they don't have that choice, you do start to wonder, do we have our own game coming through in this round? Are we going to see Nova and Charlotte, potentially Envy, getting out in the map and getting busy?
Keep an eye on that balcony as well, at the rear, at the sort of bottom of your screen. Thank you very much, Medics. That's the exact one I'm talking about. That balcony has been a bit of a flashpoint so far inside of this map. We see it being a real sticking point. It's a bit of a funny one. For me, it's a bit of an attention magnet, Des. Teams want to go and breach it. You've got to breach directly into sight. Let's go and get that wall open. But it's just a bit of a nightmare to control. We've seen the clash used out of the single door. Even if it's not a clash, we've seen bulletproof cameras. We've seen people on the run out. It's just a nightmare to hold on to, and we've seen attacks fall apart, dashed against the rocks as they try to get that breach open. And so it's always an area to watch for me, because I want to see just how the attackers deal with it. Do they go for it? Is that where PGH is going to go in, or is he just going to ignore it and they're going to play in elsewhere?
If they can find an alternative attack, then absolutely fantastic. The one thing to consider is there are still 2 ADSs on this door, which shows they do want to be playing around this. They do want to hold it and try and aggress onto T1 as they start on their vault up. But in fact, there's just the one there now. So back pocketing the other ones and sticking them elsewhere around the site here to make sure other members are safe. And he's even going to take that one away, acknowledging, okay, our potential cheese has been removed.
That's it. I mean, you've got to think of it. It's how do you play that combination? If you're going for the breach, you drop a nade down there just as you're doing it. It prevents the run out. You know, there's all sorts of back and forward, of cat and mouse, as we always see in this game. But for the time being, we've had a full rotate coming in from T1. They are not happy with that side of the map, so it's going to be all eyes on the west, and they're going to try pushing in from the opposite side. We've got Arakaze just moving in underneath on the knock. Managed to get himself a nice kill last time around. It was up in terrace last time. Terrace into drum. This time he's going to look to work up those drum stairs, so certainly being his sort of his area of operation there.
The one, Envy Taylor, inside of Geisha. He's the one they're looking for, I imagine. Last time they played, he did a lot of work around drum. Was sat there as the solo man, killed a couple of players that came pushing in. Wouldn't be surprised to see him work his way up towards that side of the map. There is already a player currently sat there, though, and with the retreat angle back there up through top mez being cut off somewhat, he might have to take an alternative route, and sure enough, he's going to drop himself down into delivery, and let's see what else he can do from down here.
Needs to get himself in the action. He might just come head-to-head with Arakaze here. Arakaze absolutely no idea that Envy Taylor's dropped underneath, and it's going to be a nice freebie. He's going to take a little bit of damage for his trouble, but with being Thunderbird, that will tell us that there are the corner salvation stations knocking about, and he will be able to, if he can get himself back onto site, just replenish a little bit of that health as well as taking the advantage and leaving the now 5 versus 4. Mephi coming around, going to activate the Banshee. Not sure that he's aware that there's somebody just ready to challenge from the stairs. The couple of shots out should tell him that's the case, and there's going to be a nade going out here. It could be a short day. It will, as Nova gets taken down, and that's T1 just leveling things back up again.
Indeed, 4 versus 4, but the clock, Tim, the clock is running down to those final 15 seconds here. Hello, there's a guy sat right there. He's like a gargoyle in front of him, but didn't see the man. Thought he was part of the furniture. How wrong he could be. A 3 versus 2 for SANDBOX as we go into these last 10 seconds. Smoke's coming out. Mephi finding one on the step through, but he's got to find 2 more. Inhaling that gas as he charges through. PJH going to try and stick it. Mephi into a massive 3K. Can PJH stick it? No! On the downstairs, the down comes through the floor, and SANDBOX get the round.
So unfortunate for T1 there. You really thought they were going to overcome the odds and get that one done, but what a great defense. In the last few seconds, I won't say the whole thing, but in the last few seconds from SANDBOX there, just able to locate that key man, the critical moment of stopping that diffuser going down from underneath, spraying through the floor. It was well played to just clutch onto that round and keep a hold of it. 1-1 now as SANDBOX, they get themselves on the scoreboard, and it doesn't take them very long at all.
It's very easy to say now that we're sat here and he's 6-0, but across the... I didn't actually check the 4th Playday stats, but on the 3rd, 2nd, and 1st day, look at this, by the way. He's literally staring at you, bro. Like, you've had a good time.
How did he survive that long is the question.
The pair of them, really. I'm just baffled, but it looked quite strange because he was all highlighted in red because of the lights underneath as well. So it does look like a statue, I guess. Like, I'll give him that. But it's like one of these things does not belong, and apparently both players did not belong, as it turned out. But Mephi again, Playday 1, 2, and 3, top rated for the team, 10+ kills, really having a prolific entry into APAC North. And today it's continuing. He's 6-0 so far, Tim. Ultimately a fruitless 3K in the prior round, but you're not going to say no to someone who's really feeling it on the day, because being 6-0 inside just a couple of rounds, you'll be a little bit worried if you're SANDBOX to think about what that number could potentially hit if things carry on at this rate.
Exactly that. I mean, for now, I think T1, they sort of need to make hay while the sun shines, Des. It feels like they've got an opportunity to get a few rounds here. While Mephi's gunning, you know, we see this quite often. Players will come in and maybe get 10, 12 kills in a half, switch sides, and then don't really pick any up because they can't keep that rhythm. They can't play in the same style. Envy Taylor, he's going to take Mephi down. That's going to be his first death. It's an entry death as well. Envy Taylor just giving SANDBOX a great advantage, a great start to this round by taking out the top fragger of T1.
Yeah, perfect guy to find, absolutely. Gets the kill, darts back inside. Now you're looking to the other 4 members to do some damage. This round, interestingly, Crazy Boy has stepped across to playing on the Twitch, so stepping away from the Buck. And that's been an operator that he has played a lot lately, but my God, has he got some work to be doing, because already they're down to a 5 versus 3. Inside the opening 60 seconds, Envy, yet another an absolute terror out on the roam. Only 2 left standing for T1, and I think we all know which way round 3 is going, Tim.
Certainly looks that way. It's all going one way at the minute, and that's in SANDBOX's direction. Crazy Boy in 11. They've got plenty of time. They can just have a little breath here, see if they can get any information. Maybe use those drones, see just what is what and who is where. They've been taking pot shots through the soft walls, not able to really find anybody. Envy Taylor's taken a chunk of damage, but he's not going to challenge anymore. He's just going to sit himself back towards site, I would imagine, and just hold an angle. 11 thinking about going into drum, just looking for any angle. Nice and patient from T1. I like to see that. There's still a belief here that they can win this round. They're not just throwing themselves onto the swords of SANDBOX. They're going to just try and use those drones, as I said, get the intel and do what they can.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those slow burn rounds rather than a chance for T1 to fight it back in, especially when Crazy Boy is a bullet away from death, or in this case, a bullet away from being down. Envy Taylor, this demon out on the road, like I mentioned, will find himself a 3rd in the round. 11 with a great shot onto Charles as he jumps out of the geisha window. But 11, a player that has been quiet throughout the stage, being expected to pull off a full 5 kills in a 1v5 in 45 seconds. I don't know about that one.
We don't see too many of them, that's for sure. Almost. He's unlucky there not to get the headshot onto Nova as he goes through the window, but he's going to get picked up from jump. That little line of sight there just giving the view that SANDBOX needed. That's going to be 2-1, and a better last couple of rounds than the first one that SANDBOX had. Obviously a difficult one for them to take, but they've been able to lock down T and Karaoke now. That's 2 sites. We'll see them move to their 3rd, and it's going to be, surprise, surprise, barbecue and kitchen. We'll see what they can cook up for us.
Yeah, this site's an interesting one too, because you see normally very vertical focused holds. You're really probably going to be upstairs. You might even see the Mute hanging up there. Definitely going to see the Jaeger up there, for example. And the whole goal is just waste as much time as you can. Now, down 1 key when attacking into that kind of setup, just hit the site from Pantry. south side of your screen. They opened up the wall, planted just inside it with a thermite, and there was nothing more really to be said. The other side just really unable to respond to that much aggression at that kind of pace. I expect you're going to find SANDBOX being a little bit more ready for it. And in identifying the site that we're going to here, PJH going to step away from being on the thermite and instead moving over to the ace.
As you suggested, top floor presence here. It's largely about protecting that hatch. You don't want to give up that verticality down into sight. Instead, you would rather keep hold of it as the defenders, just to prevent anybody coming in through that kitchen door. It's not quite as powerful as it used to be. Obviously, before the rework, the hatch was centered more inside of the geisha room rather than towards the edge there. So it was only a small difference, but when you were stood inside a kitchen, whereas now it's right over towards the door, it used to be pretty much dead central above the room, so you could really control the whole room from that hatch. So a small difference, but still an important one. But teams still wanting to keep a hold of it, so there will be a fight over geisha, I would imagine, as T1 will try to get themselves established in there. For the time being, they are rappelling up. They're going to be in and around terrace, around drum, looking to enter in from there. PJH just going to make sure that there's no attempts at a run out, and it's actually going to be a more direct push in towards geisha here as the Selma Chargers start working.
I remember in a game against Rejects, forget which team it was that was playing against them, I think it was down one Kia, they had to double Claymore, Shrine Window, because they would jump out, instantly impact the only Claymore, and then kill the other players that were on North Balcony with them. So here, although it's coming down to the single ones, if SANDBOX are really feeling up to it, they could bring along some impacts and just go hyper-aggressive on the jump out. So far, it's been more this roam game that I keep on speaking about. Envy has been a nightmare on that Frost out and around the map. Nova also doing great work on the 4K himself so far. And both of them, I mean, in this case, Envy on site, but it was Nova who was hanging out towards house side earlier on, up on the top floor, again roaming out, but is now kind of more playing perimeter to the rest of the site.
Arakaz just holding angles. We've seen that a lot from him on the knock. He has had some good kills using that ability, but maybe not aggressive enough in the beginning of the rounds. Knock is one that can really excel at getting in there quickly, undetected, and just making a nuisance in the early round, but it's really not been the case, as it's pretty much been used for holding down flanks for the time being, whilst the others do their work of breaching and trying to get inside the map. But trying to get inside the map is something that T1 are struggling with at the minute, Des. We're up at nearly the 2 minutes gone mark, and we still don't really have them established.
Yeah, we saw how this punished them before as well, taking this much time to get control of the map, rotating things around with about a minute or so to go. You know, other teams have been stung by that. We saw Fab in our first game of the day rotating around on Villa and leaving themselves with no time to drone, no times to clear out those who were holding perimeter places. In this case, it's looking very much the same. They've got 45 seconds left. They've not even had a gunfight so far. It's going to boil down to SANDBOX ultimately holding positions and just letting T1 run into them.
11 going to hold this angle for the time being, but T1, they can't do that forever. 35 seconds left to go, and they just don't have that sort of grace. Crazy Boy does manage to find Nova. That gets things going. Mephi with a little bit of luck there. Harper just peeking out into his pre-fire, and that's going to leave us now in a very quick turnaround, 5 versus 3, and T1 might just have the advantage that they need, but Envy Taylor has been going very well so far, and he's going to continue as he manages to get one. Static it is who actually gets Arakazi, but the Envy Taylor trade comes in. Mephi, he's going to go down, and that's going to be PJH getting that diffuser on the ground. 3 versus 2, and surely this is one that can be held onto now. Just inside of the kitchen window, the rappel can hold it down. It's all up to Shayo. Finds one inside his sight. That's a direct trade as Mephi had taken out his cohort there, and it's all down to Shayo. Heads up to the top floor to try and use that verticality, but there's one on the geisha window, and it's going to be 11 to close things out.
2 for 2 then so far. It's turning into that kind of spicy game we were hoping for. Admittedly, 2 big 3Ks coming out of Mephi, and winning the 1v1 in the first round has done a lot of the hard yards for T1. Without him marching on forwards and getting those 3 kills, I don't see a world where they're able to safely plant inside a kitchen, because it was the work he was doing from Pantry that really unlocked that kind of safe point in the site. And you saw from Charlotte at the end there's players on the rappel upstairs watching Geisha, so no one can play vertically. They have players watching on the downstairs as well. Really hard to stage a fight back at that point, but it's keeping the game competitive, Tim. 2-2.
Very close at the minute, and not too much to really decide between these two teams. As you say, they've both had big moments, they've both had big plays, controlled different areas of the game, and there's certainly positives and negatives to be found on both sides, which is how we like to see. And it's no surprise that the scoreboard is just lining up with that as well. And with 2-2 coming into the final 2 defensive rounds now. SANDBOX going to take us back to Office. Again, we saw them play this back in round number 2. It was a good win for SANDBOX. They were able to really close things out. Envy Taylor on the roam was a little bit of a nuisance, and T1 never really felt like they got anywhere near sight on this. It was all down to that final sort of shot through from underneath, but the work had already really been done at that point, and it was a real fight for them to even try and get in. 4 seconds left. There was just little else that they could do.
This is an interesting one for you. Mephi stepping across to playing in a more supportive role. He's been on Finker and Diana the entire game so far, but in this round, PJ stepped away to play on the Maverick, probably so they still had the nades on side and to help them get open the walls that will normally be electrified. And the Ace on side, more for helping them get into other areas of the map as they try and push their way forwards. So I'm keen to see what damage he can do here on the Ace. Is he going to be able to do enough? I mean, he's mainly played entry operators so far, but does indeed bring with him a second Claymore as well. They've been putting them down on windows every single round, at least 2 of them, just to stop any cheeky SANDBOX jump outs.
Crazy Boy going to be opening up a popular window so far for T1. We've seen them using that a number of times just to hold down the angle at the bottom of the main stairs there and try and cut off any defenders that are thinking about moving from main door back up in that direction. Ace is going to deal with that troublesome wall that I pointed out earlier. Always difficult to play on the balcony, but doing so at distance like that with the ranged hard breach makes life a lot easier, and that's probably why we've seen that change from Mephi. PJH stepping away from the thermite this time. Still going to be 5v5 as we're just over a minute into the round. The entries are something that haven't really come too quickly in this game, and that's basically speaks to exactly what T1 have been doing, which is taking their time to get inside. A little bit quicker this time, which I will give them credit for, but they just need to really get some sort of benefit out of that and find a kill or 2 as well.
3 or 4 of those, 3 of the 4 entries have gone the way of SANDBOX as well. Only really in the last round did Crazy Boy find Nova first, and it turned into a 2k overall for T1, which then sort of propelled Mephi forward to find a few more. I'm not quite sure where the second Electro Claw was, by the way. I think Static, he had it in back pocket still. The first one was on the connecting wall between site and between the lead up towards Terrace. But one wasn't on the main wall, which meant instead of using the Maverick, they just changed over and went, you know what, Selmas will do just fine. Thank you very much for the free opening. So they've got site very, very quickly, even without a thermite, for example, and without a need for the Maverick. It's all sort of paused from here, though, as they set up the next stage of this attack.
The electrical is being placed on the office wall and over at the top of main stairs as well, just preventing any access from the balcony. Static, he's going to take Mephi down. The Ace's job already done. The Selma breaches have opened up the balcony, but we're not really seeing too much use of that angle. It's sort of like they've opened it up and then, actually, we don't really know what to do. We can't comfortably play on balcony, so we're just going to leave it there as a little bit of a disruption for the defenders, but not really had too much of an impact so far.
The second one we just saw there had been put down onto the single wall inside of VIP, which means the Kai can sit inside of that north side of the house very comfortably and just look to contest. Arakazi stepping his way forwards. I don't think he's been spotted out there. They're not even aware that he's moving forwards, because if that default cam is still up, well, he's just got past it. He is a nut, but there's a man tucked round to the side. It's a freebie coming out for Envy. Just lacking on the drone play here, lacking on the intel game. T1 stalling out in the mid-round, and SANDBOX stealing away a flawless round in round 5.
Again, I just think a little bit of a lack of direction.
That's exactly the word I'd use, yeah.
A lack of direction from T1 on the attack. There's lots of stuff going on all over the map, but it doesn't really seem to be coming together in a coherent plan. It's like, yeah, we've opened balcony. Okay. What have you done with it? You know,
that's the problem, yeah.
There's nothing really then being done with it. And it's not linking into the other things that they are doing. It's not like, right, we've opened the balcony, so that's moved that away, so we can now push in through drop. It's just not really coming together for them, or it didn't in that round at least. And so you have all this sort of busyness around the map, and you have SANDBOX just waiting to pick up kills as Nox has to push in towards site. You know, it's,
they can't really decide, it feels like, right?
Yeah.
They're very indecisive in the mid-round itself.
Don't get me wrong, they're doing well. They've got 2 rounds. It's not the end of the world. Get 3 on Skyscraper, you may well win it on defence. But just in terms of that attack, it just looked a bit disparate, just a bit.
I wouldn't hate the score if the rounds they've lost were, you know, at least them having a good bash at it, but it feels very, okay, we're not really going to drone, we're going to crouch walk through here and hope no one sees us on the way through, tee-hee, and then just getting picked off by players who are sat holding corners. It's not even a challenge for SANDBOX.
One way that I'd sum up that last round, and it's sort of just building on the point you've made there, is why was that a flawless round? Why was it a flawless round? It wasn't because you had...
Well, Tim, it's because they didn't kill anyone.
Do you know, it wasn't because you had Envy Taylor go off and get 3 or 4 kills on a great roam all over the map, winning gunfights. T1 just went down one at a time, done. And there wasn't a real reason for it to be a flawless round. You know, they had opportunity there to find a kill or 2, but just never did.
Just starving themselves of the intel game, unfortunately, as well. This one's starting out much better, though. Every single drone's still alive. Of course, if you look in the top left corner of your screen, 4 indicates how many are alive and out in the field, 5 how many are in back pocket. If you're thinking, wait a minute, Des, they get 10 drones. No, because the Twitch has 2. She only gets the 1 normal drone. So when you see a Twitch on field, that number should always add up to 9, assuming, of course, none have died, which in this case, they haven't yet.
So technically 11 if we include the 2 Twitch drones.
Absolutely. If you want to get counting.
We will. For the time being, they've only lost 1, and T1 need to be using that drone utility a lot better than previous. Need to be recognising where players are. Static, he's been found on the main stairs. There's no challenge. There's nobody in a position to be able to challenge. The drones are going out and they're finding them, but where are the entry players? Where is the push coming from? 15, 20 seconds later, Static is still able to play on main stairs for the time being until he's forced to dip away. And so T1 need to just be, for me, a little bit more reactive on that. Get on top of it. Have it like a hot drone. Somebody moving in behind it, ready to challenge.
SANDBOX are playing their own game very well. We can't take that away from them either, by the way, because they're killing a couple of drones, then falling back. And T1 are then sat in the spotlight, right, okay, people are around who can kill our drones. We can't drones. We have to kind of very slowly peek our way forwards here and try and find a gunfight. But SANDBOX are gone. They're in Narnia by the point they're paying any kind of attention. They've had a marathon across half the map. They're back towards sight. Then you get back on drones like they're doing now. They fell back to a second set of positions that kill even more drones out. And it's just very well played by SANDBOX, really making T1 work for anything in this game.
I was just going to ask the question if Crazy Boy's Twitch drone had seen that frost mat, because it got thrown in through the window and landed just in front of it, but a secondary drone come through and just pinged out that utility for him. So getting away with one there, not going to be snapped shut inside of that trap. It's going to be 5 versus 4 as Nova is the first to be found, but time could become a factor again. We've said it a couple of times for T1. Sometimes in the mid-round particularly, I think, like you said, they're just struggling to find their focus and exactly where is this execute going to be. 30 seconds left to go, 5 versus 4, and SANDBOX, they're pretty much turtled up, but there's one downstairs. He's on the flank.
Of course, if he comes up these house stairs and they don't see him through a flank drone, heads will be rolling. They've got 5 drones out on the field. At least one of them has to be doing some work. The problem is no one's going to be sat on drones actively because they're looking for the execute here. They're stepping in. The plant's coming in from Arakazi as well, and not yet a response coming out from the other side. He's going to stick that, and it's a 4 versus 3 for T1. Arakazi almost losing his life to the C4, but being juiced back up again. Turns it into a second kill. A trade, in fact, coming in onto Static. Down goes Mephi, a 2 versus 2. Surely, SANDBOX are looking to make this a 4-2 half, but my God, a T1 making it hard for them. They're stepping back through. Envy rejoining the fight as well, currently set at 8 and 2, so he has got to do some work. Almost finds Crazy Boy, but can't quite finish it off. Arakazi tucked in. Does he know about the ones on the door, though? Yes, he will. Finds one into a triple on the round, expecting around the corner, but it's not to be the case. Making a 4K for Arakazi and a plant to end the half 3 and 3.
A nice move from T1 to get the diffuser down. You've got to look at it and say, SANDBOX, what are you doing? You know you're 4v5 at that point. You've got 3 on site, and still they are able to sneak their way in. SANDBOX were about 20 seconds away, Des, because we were watching Static with bated breath as he just moved too slowly up those rear side and main stairs, just trying to get on the flank, but it was just taking him a little bit too long to get there. Maybe a roll of the dice, a little bit of a gamble, let yourself out, hit the shift key, have the run, see if you can even win the gunfights if they've been alerted to you based on noise. It just took him too long to get there and gave them the opportunity to get that diffuser down, because SANDBOX had been pushed back into Karaoke, into Geisha, and it was that missing puzzle piece of having somebody on the other side of the map who could challenge, and Static just couldn't get there quickly enough. But T1 took full advantage of that. It was well played from them. They found their focus, they got in there, and they took the opportunity when it was presented. Got the diffuser down, and that leaves them 3-3. And now we switch things up and see if SANDBOX can match or better that on the attack.
Now we get to play the Ying Warden bait game, where you start seeing Ying coming along. Teams will just often default to bringing a Warden out of fear of there being a Ying. And I wouldn't be surprised if SANDBOX had done a little bit of droning there, identified, okay, we can't see a Warden. What's going to work well here? A Ying. Let's really go for it. They've changed the Iana away to the Finker because that helps a lot more with the execute, of course, a little bit more juiced up. Your entries are going into fights with big guns, LMGs, for example, and a little bit of extra HP. you make it almost impossible for yourself to lose fights unless the defenders can hit some wicked headshots as you try and push your way through. So for SANDBOX, this round is all about the execute. And if they lose this Ying, my God, is it going to sting? Can he find a kill upstairs? No, he can't. Down to half HP. Crazy Boy living up to his name because he's still sticking on this vertical and he can't find the kill. Envy gets it first and shuts down Crazy Boy on the mute.
And Crazy Boy just getting a little bit locked into that one. Might have been better to dip away. 11 is going to find Nova to level things up, but there's an immediate trade comes in as Shio finds his man. Leaves us 4 versus 3. And SANDBOX, they are moving pretty well so far on the attack. There's no real way that you should be losing on a reverse vertical angle like that. Envy Taylor able to do some great work there. One difficulty SANDBOX might have here, if the Ying is the big focus point for getting the plant down, is the fact there's only 2 smokes on side, and they are with Envy Taylor on the Ying, so they need to be careful, particularly of those ADSs. Make sure they clear it out because they don't want to be losing those smoke canisters if they want to double them up with the Ying Candelas.
This is what you'll see SANDBOX are really made of as well, because they've relied on the Ossa a lot over the last 4 play days. On most maps they've played, they've brought it along on at least one of those rounds. Here, without it, with it being banned away, they've got to change the game up a little bit. Ying is that go-to tool, like we've mentioned a couple of times already. And as you alluded to, that is where the smokes sit here, a big one for the execute, to cut off some of the longer lines of sight that you get on Karaoke and T, especially between Black and in towards Geisha, for example. A nade here coming in below onto the wall, because they want to get this one opened up. Imagine it was being blocked away. Most likely by a mute jammer. It now being cleared out means they can look to open this up, but SANDBOX still with 60 seconds to play. I feel are in pretty good shape here, Tim.
Yep, not looking too bad at the minute. There comes the first Candela. Envy Taylor's just going to try and push his way up the back stairs, but he's finding himself cut off here as he's got smoke behind him, smoke in front of him. He did take a lungful and a bit of damage as well, so that leaves him in a more precarious position, and the push with the Candela not really bearing any fruit as he's not able to get himself up to the top of the staircase, not really able to aggress, but Shio does find PJH. That opens things up a little bit here. He's going to burn those ADSs, and this is where you're likely to see that utility coming out again. The Candela does indeed go off. We will hear it detonate, but there's the kill. Big one from Mephi before being full white flash. That might just stall out this SANDBOX push. 20 seconds left to go. Static starts getting that diffuser down. It's up to Arakaze and Mephi now. The Nitro is going to miss, and that's going to allow Static to finish this plant. It's just too late from Mephi. It's a 1 versus 2. He needs to find more kills, but there's one on the upside down rappel. Karaoke window, surely this is going to be done. He can find one.
Way.
It's 1v1 Des. He's got a difficult kill to find. He needs to find Shio.
He's got so much time.
The cover is there because of where the plant is. So close.
So close. Locked into the animation, but hits the shot she need. And ensures SANDBOX get the first round of their attack in half. Both halves have started out with this really intense 1v1 in which Mephi has been the man involved. He won it back in round 1, but lost it here in round 7. SANDBOX moving up to 4 and 3. And one of those rounds where they got a little bit pigeonholed into the black side push because all the members of T1 were so focused on being in Geisha inside of T, for example, that really the only place you can step into was looking to challenge into the north side of Karaoke. They get that plant down, and just, half a second off getting the spray down as that plant got completed? It's deja vu from what we saw earlier on in the game.
Whew, that was a good round. It was very, very close at the end there. Almost a 1v3 completed. We've got the Thorn brought along this time by 11. One that we don't see too much of, but we see enough of. I like the new operator. I do like the gadget as well. We've spoken about the Razor Bloom before. Not really anti-entry because the detonation of it just takes too long. You get an Asher as a Fear, as somebody sprinting in, and a Iana on the entry, and they will go flying past those Razor Blooms before any damage can be done, but certainly good for area denial, preventing somebody getting in and holding an angle, putting them on a plant spot, preventing that diffuser being activated. Those sorts of things the Razor Bloom can be great for. And when we bring it down to absolute basics, Dawn's just got a cracking gun as well.
She does. I think mainly it comes down to the gadget, though, because it is that Intel gadget, right?
Yep.
Saw it quite a bit in NAR yesterday. I think it was Astralis running it a lot, and they were saying in the interview after the game, ultimately, it's the information. You know when someone's coming in, you know when to swing. We saw it used to really good effect. Sonics, I think it was Yeti who repelled in through the Karaoke window straight into a Razor Bloom, was forced to run for his life, and it was all too easy to pick him up whilst he was fleeing the potential death coming from that Razor Bloom. So a very valuable gadget at this point as well. Here we've got the side of SANDBOX looking to push their way in on the top side pretty quickly here, blowing out the first of those castle barricades and starting their move forwards.
The stun canister that comes in is going to just give away that there's somebody in and around. There's absolutely no way out of this, surely. The Nitro will be shot out. He's making a swift rotate to try and get an exit here, a getaway. Shiles somehow with a team kill onto Envy Taylor. Harper does get Crazy Boy Mephi with one onto Static. 4v3 for T1, but they've got away with one there, Des.
I mean, you'll happily take that. Losing Crazy Boy as a sacrifice and just letting them team kill each other? Yeah, no worries at all. 2 members of SANDBOX already off the board. Static, the man with the plan who's got the diffuser down in that last round, and Envy, who's been a demon out on the roam in that first half. Struggling to get really too involved in the second so far. It has only been a couple of rounds, but still 2 big names to lose out of round 8.
It certainly is, and there's not going to be any desperate need for some of the utility that's missing, I wouldn't have thought, but it's still not ideal. What I like from SANDBOX that we see and that's completely contrasting to T1 is the speed of the entry. 25 seconds into the round, they were inside the map, they were up black stairs, they were looking to make challenges, and that's what I like to see. It was what was lacking a little bit from the T1 attack.
A lot of that comes because T1 were being stubborn though and refusing to pull back, where I think, again, SANDBOX are very good at killing a drone or 2 and then dialing back, whereas Crazy Boy knew that he was in there for a short ride and a fun one, most definitely not a long one. Working their way through into terrace here. You've got shot on the downstairs. PJ8 steps out. Can't seem to hit the back door of a barn at this point. Tim just keeps on falling by the wayside. Mephi now hitting the deck as well. A nice little swing coming out from 11 at least starts to neutralise things back the other way. It's a 2 versus 2 at least for now until Mephi's back on his feet. So with 30 seconds left, all the pressure is on SANDBOX.
Nova will have been unaware that he had Mephi down there and that there was an opportunity to push forward with a numbers advantage, but Mephi is going to be down. Arakaze cleans things up, and that's going to be T1 getting their first successful defense on the board, leveling things up 4-4, and boy, have we got a match on our hands here. These two just absolutely toe-to-toe wailing on each other right now.
And not many would have expected that come into this, I don't think. Many would have thought SANDBOX, given their record so far, very much in the middle of the table, would be able to beat out T1, who struggled in the first few play days.
I know 2 people who thought this might be a close contest.
Oh, who were they, mate? They must be absolute geniuses, the pair of them.
Must be. There's 2 people who have predicted T1 to win this
no
one.
way. Well, you know, full congratulations to them because it's looking
I mean, if T1 come through and win this, like you say, you know, they really are going to look like big brain.
Oh, they'll be absolutely insufferable as well. I don't want to be around them when this game ends.
No, absolutely not. Neither of them obviously have a reputation for that sort of behaviour just yet.
Absolutely not. That'll change very quickly.
Heading into round number 9, 4-4, and we're going to be heading to the downstairs site. It's going to be the bedroom this time around. It's one that we don't see too often. It tends to be kitchen barbecue if we're going to see a downstairs site, but it's basically going to be a very similar process. It's a very similar procedure to holding on to kitchen and barbecue. This time you're going to want to hold on to exhibition and office. You still want that verticality. You want to try and hold on to that area. Don't let them in there too easily, and then you'll try and pick 1 or 2 up on their own.
You speak about this verticality. Yeah, you can get some wicked angle coming in from inside of office that can look down through into the wall that you see hanging over bathroom. In fact, I think it's inside the other side. I'm a lie. No, it is this one. And you can see just through it inside of delivery. It can be an absolute terror when they get that opened up. I thought we saw someone get like 3 kills on that vertical last week when we first saw this played. Maybe back in week 1, actually, not week 2. But you saw the kills coming through either way. So no surprise at all to see T1 looking to have some presence up on that top floor and make use of those verticals.
Immediate pressure onto the site from the sledge of Harper, just opening that closet window and having a little look inside. Not going to catch anybody in there, but it does just make the defenders on site that little bit more sort of cautious, having to hold themselves back. Envy Taylor, knowing that his drone was not going to be long-lived, tried to take a little pot shot and just take a little bit of damage, do anything he can to maybe distract or support this push. But inside of a minute here, I like the progress that SANDBOX are making again. They're being aggressive, getting themselves up towards the positions they want to be in to try and challenge. Ooh, little bit of a misstep there from the Twitch drone, just getting overexcited, pushing too far forward.
Being caught out as well. Robot wars may now begin. As the real wars begin, Harper finding Crazy Boy. A second coming in for him, almost a third, but 2 come back the other way. Even Arakaze finding a kill onto Shile with one of those Glow canisters coming out. Don't often see that in the kill feed, but you'll take it. A kill is a kill.
Static going to open up that hatch now, and the verticals are in possession of SANDBOX, so they can start to just really try to move the defenders around. But interestingly, T1, they've dipped away, and they're going to be playing much more from the sort of off-site position, the extension, where they try to then work themselves back in from that stock area. Just holding angles, a little bit of a lull for everybody at the minute as SANDBOX try to get a bit more information, I think, try to get a feel. They know they've got the vertical, they know there's the potential to put the diffuser down, but they know that there's more kills need to be found before they will be able to do that. Now then, as Nova looks to push in, PJH with a cheeky little nitro gets his man, 3v2. Static trying to use that vertical. Envy Taylor, they know exactly where he is. This is going to be very difficult for SANDBOX from here.
All too easy. I think you got Charles upstairs as well, basically the opposite side, or sorry, Static, the other side of the map at this point. Envy very much solo pushing himself through here, looks the wrong way, find himself tagged out. The Ella goes for the swing. Mephi coming up against Envy, but it's PGH finding Static first. Envy's down to just about 70 HP as it ticks down further. Mephi, I think now moving himself up to 15 kills this game so far, Tim.
Mephi going absolutely wild at the minute. Unstoppable right now as RT1 get themselves 2 defensive rounds in a row, and they could well be on the home straight. I don't want to get overexcited here yet, Des, but I already am. T1, they are looking good, but SANDBOX have certainly got some fight in them, and we know that they are capable of turning this one over. We're going to be heading back to karaoke. It was the first choice site for T1. They lost it to SANDBOX, who were able to get a diffuser plant down, but it did come down to a 1v1. It was all up to Shayo on that external rappel, came in at just the right time, got his kill, closed it out, but there is definitely scope for T1 to win here and get themselves onto that match point opportunity.
It's been a real up and down kind of game where you've seen some rounds just be absolute wipeouts by one side, and looking back at the Flawless, for example, in round 5 for SANDBOX, we're looking at the big 4K that came up for Arakaze in the next round. It's just been back and forth between both. It is truly neck and neck, and that last round found a little bit like unfamiliarity with the site. Admittedly, we have not seen Bedroom and Bathroom much here in APAC North, but again in NAL last night we did see the very first site that got played on this map between Sonics and Astralis was Bedroom and Bathroom. So you're seeing all 4 sites being used to some level. I don't yet know how popular Bedroom Bathroom is going to be. We'll have to wait until the end of the stage to get that feel, but it is definitely feeling like the true off-site here, the 4th most preferable option that you won't see too many teams go to. Barbecue, a much more preferable one to play in.
We've got the Ying brought along a game by Envy Taylor. I wouldn't say that it was completely influential last time around, but it's always difficult to say that Ying doesn't have an impact on the round because she inevitably does. But it wasn't, absolutely pivotal to getting that diffuser down either. We'll see this time whether there's, what I mean by that is that sort of default Ying. Get your smokes in, get your candelas in, and go in and plant in the middle of it all. Let's see if we have more of that sort of play this time around. For the time being, Envy Taylor's going to be working that vertical angle just upside down on the rappel. Not easy to aim like that when you're looking to, just snap quickly to people. It's a little bit disorientating sometimes, but I'm sure Envy Taylor will be quite capable of dealing with that. But the entry's in. Des 11's managed to get Shayo. Crazy Boy onto Harper. 5v3. It's happening, Des.
It is starting to warm up, and you're getting too excited before the results even here yet, Tim. But 11 getting an entry is a big one for them. We haven't seen that much over the stage so far. One of the best players that we had rivaling Yas for all of last year has been quiet really in stage 3 and into stage 1, but starting to warm up. Crazy Boy getting yet another 11, finally shut down by Envy Taylor, but him and Static, they've got a lot to pull off here in a 2 versus 4.
A lot of work to do. Envy Taylor looking to move up the black stairs exactly as he did last time around. He used the candelas to support him in doing so, but they weren't really too effective in getting him to the top. It was actually Shayo moving in from the door opposite us that really did the work of getting them into this side of the map, so it could be a tough one now for Envy Taylor to try and break through.
They have got time though, about 70 seconds to play with as one of those Goyos starts burning out. It won't be that influential given there is still so much time on the clock, but for now at least it's impeding them, and by the looks of it, T1 know exactly where the push is coming from. They've got 1 or 2 long angles here to play on as well. They've got control of top black, which is what they've looked for all round long, but only now can start making a play forward from it. Static finding 1. Crazy Boy, who already had 2 kills in the round. I don't know if he knew he was looking at the guy's shoulder then, but won't find anything. Going to smoke this off, and then comes the swing from Arakaze. Shuts down Envy Taylor. Static's left in a 1 versus 3. T1 is going to look for their closing kill at this point to move it up to 6 and 4 and put themselves on match point.
Unfortunate for Static there, being full white flashed by the candela that was just dropped on the spot as the Ying was killed at the perfect moment. Meant that he had to dip away, couldn't aggress in through that breach, and now he's left fighting from what would be seen as probably an inferior superior angle here as there's 3 guns watching him and they know exactly where he is, and he doesn't have the element of surprise. Arakaze on the same angle as he took Envy Taylor down on is going to find that final kill, and that's 6 for T1. That's the map point that they now come into in round 11, and SANDBOX, just those early kills, it left them dead in the water. This is exactly what I said, trying to get control of the top of Black Stairs, which they ultimately did, but the cost was just too high. The 2 men that were left, they were on a fraction of health by the time they got in there. Last time around, they had that extra manpower. Shayo was able to push in through the door at the same time, and it just enabled them to get themselves established there at a little bit of a lower cost. This time, not happening.
You're seeing the difference in the defensive styles from both teams as well. We spoke in that first half. It's like trying to box with Ghost when you're playing against SANDBOX on their defense, because they'll drop down mutes, they'll make it hard to drone them out. If you do get a drone through, they kill the drone, they back away to their next layer of defense and keep you guessing on, okay, can we get another drone out here? Do we have to push forward and take a gunfight or 2? Whereas T1 are much more stubborn in their defense. They will sit and hold places like 11 did in the last round inside of Restaurant. We had Crazy Boy inside of Gold Tuck last time round as well. So you're seeing them be a much more, we have this ground, we like this ground, it's my ground, stay away. They're much more happy to fight you for it. So again, 2 different play styles, and SANDBOX are starting to struggle in these gunfights where T1 are holding down good positions on the map.
I've joked about the predictions, you know, the predictions are the predictions. They're just a bit of fun. The reason that I'm so happy to see this performance coming out of T1 after their win last week as well is this is a team that has really paid their dues, Des, here in APAC North. They got battered at times last year. They have really stuck their heels in. They've continued working, and they are now starting to show exactly what can happen when you put the work in. When the graft is there, the grind is there, you are able to turn it around. You can go from the bottom team in the league to being competitors, and that's now what they are and what they're showing us. And we are starting to finally see the performances out of these players that we knew that they could deliver.
Just took a little bit of time. And the thing is, SANDBOX, let's not forget, Nova is moving to a coach position, and they've got Good Boy coming in. So where Mephi has been lights out, the best player for T1 so far this stage, SANDBOX may yet have theirs come through with Good Boy. Unfortunately, he only gets to play in the last game of the stage for them. That's just after they play against Dan Wonkir. I think he plays literally the day after he turns 18. But that's how much they're kind of putting in him to be the future of this team, that they're waiting for him to turn 18, and then he immediately comes into the roster. So for now, you're not seeing a full-strength SANDBOX, but at the end of the day, it's a very much familiar roster. They played together for the longest time as Harper hits the deck.
You're not seeing a full-strength SANDBOX in this round, as you say, downed with some explosives. Crazy Boy getting excited, trying to get himself that opener, maybe just overextending a little bit, trying to take the peak, doesn't find the man, does find some damage. Goyo, PJH, just looking to make a challenge there, but instead going to dip himself away back into bathroom, try to get himself upstairs to safety. SANDBOX have got themselves established inside of the map now, but still a lot of work for them to be done.
This is all out on the roam as well, mind you. Again, 11, being stubborn, not pulling back to sight yet, is looking to go for a challenge here. Finds the man and gets the down as well and gets the kill. That's what you're looking for. A second one as Arakaze with the long support coming in from Terrace to make sure 11 wasn't going to get traded. A beautiful read and fantastic team play out of T1. Puts them into a 5 versus 3 and oh so much closer to that win.
Nova's going to be out of luck here. PJH surely knows that the man is coming. No, it's a freebie for Nova. He sees him for so long, but PJH just not looking in the right direction. Mephi, he hits Shayo though to keep that advantage in place. 4 versus 2. Nova collects the case. He's going to look to move through drum here, but there's only one thing taking a beating right now, Des, and it's SANDBOX.
They are. They've got the drone coming in. They know where 11 is sat, but the other members, the other 3, are a little bit unknown here. Arakaze stepping round for the 1, 11 into the last, and T1 bring down their Korean counterparts 7-4.
Fantastic performance out of T1 there, and this is a side that are just getting more and more enjoyable to watch as the weeks go on. You just don't know what they are going to deliver, and today they've delivered a bit of an upset.
Arakaze's glasses. Beautiful stuff. I mean, let's be honest as well. A lot of this came on the back of Mephi, who's had a lights-out day. 16 kills, absolute slaughter, multiple 3Ks throughout the game, making sure rounds came their way when needed. Won the 1v1 back in the first round as well. Was unlucky not to win it in round 7. But they had 4 attacks won there. 4 defensive won in a row there at the back end of the game. That is domination in anyone's books.
Who could have imagined that T1 were going to win that game?
Who could have imagined?
Who'd have thought it does?
Who'd have thought?
How do they build that synergy?
Let's go to a break, and when we come back, the analyst will break this one down for you.